Hi, everyone. This is George, and George identifies as gay. He came to New York City after having some trouble with his family, and you might never have guessed it just by looking at him. But George had been in and out of homelessness for 5 years, and George is not alone. There's an estimated 2.8 million homeless youth ages 18 to 24 in the USA, with New York City leading as the second largest homeless youth capital next to LA. And while homelessness is devastating for all youth, it is especially so for the 40% who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer. In short, LGBTQ. There are many factors that contribute to a person running away from home. Abuse and violence are the most common. But for young LGBTQ youth, the number one reason why they become homeless is because they're rejected by their families, solely based on their gender or sexual orientation. And for these runaways, 1 in 4 will become a victim of sex trafficking or engage in what's called survival sex. Half will trade their bodies because they didn't have a safe place, including George, who said, "I did whatever the person required of me just to be warm for the night, whether that was using drugs or having sex." The very first shelter George went to, he had heard about through his school. From there, he was referred to a second shelter. And it was only inside the third shelter that he met someone who referred him to an agency dedicated solely to LGBTQ homeless youth. He told me, "I wish I had found this place earlier." George needed to know where to go as soon as he had left home. But LGBTQ youth too often lack safe places, and I wanted to investigate why. So I spoke with over 20 experts, ranging from shelter staff, social workers, queer activists, to sex trafficking specialists, and each of these experts, I asked them to send me the resources they knew of or that they used. Some of which looked like this. I also tested hotlines, apps, I went online to live crisis center chats, and in one chat with the National Runaway Hotline, I had to disclose my race and my sexual orientation. The conversation lasted a total of 15 minutes just to get 2 phone numbers. Before I had the chance to even write down these numbers, the chatline person signed out first, which automatically signed me out, leaving me no time to write them down. If this was extremely frustrating for me, I can only imagine what it feels like for others who are in a much more vulnerable position. These existing shelter information and designs lack clarity. They have no personal touch. Sometimes they ask too many questions, and it takes far too long to find information. Those who are mapping the shelter system are not mapping it well, and even Google Maps lacks the real lived experience. Few services are designed specifically towards the LGBTQ experience, and there's a lot of bureaucracy. Put simply, finding shelter is a crapshoot, and poor design is systemic across the shelter system. So I set out to try to do better. I wanted to connect LGBTQ youth to already existing bed information. I came up with this idea called Bed Alert, a mobile technology to alert youth when a bed became free at a nearby shelter. But guess how many shelters participated? 0. It just didn't work, and there were 3 major reasons why. First, shelter staff had little extra time. Second, access to data was very limited to few people, and getting city data is quite honestly very hard. And third, there was a lot of political allyship. And even when some shelters had a bed available, which was not often, they only chose to select individuals or specific shelters to share this information with. So this led me to a really important question. From whom was I seeking permission from to design, and who was I viewing as the experts? If I could not get shelters to share the information quickly and efficiently, could youth trust other youth to share information for their own development? Who better to trust than someone who has already been through the same experience as you have? That's when I started developing Caravan, generated by the real experts, the people that live it and that go through it every day. An average homeless youth knowledge system mostly exists in informal networks. They often hear about information through word of mouth, and so sometimes it takes too long to access. But homeless youth get online at least once a week. If they're not using their phone, they can access some other device, like a computer from a nearby library, a shelter, or a friend's home. And learning this, I made it my job to make the informal knowledge much more visible and accessible whenever needed. Caravan is a digital platform for homeless LGBTQ youth to find, share, and review shelters. It aims to aggregate good information and reflect the realities of their experiences by amplifying the collective LGBTQ voice. For the moment when you've left home for the first time, or when you've been in and out of homelessness and you need to connect to others who care, Caravan helps to show where all the best shelters are and allows you to see what real youth experience is like inside of them. Over 2 months, I worked side by side with an incredible developer, Gustavo Sohm, and listened to the stories of LGBTQ youth. Rather than trying to change the system, we captured their stories to help them get closer to finding the information they need to find a safe space. When one youth told me, "You never know what you're going to get when you end up at any of these places," we answered by creating a rating system. Because if we can rate our restaurants, why shouldn't we rate our shelters? The very first thing youth see is the map of their city. Youth can find where to go first and sort shelters by location or view by rating. They can see more detailed shelter information by clicking and viewing information about services on a detailed page. And here, Caravan helps answer the questions most youth don't know how to ask until they've lived it. Like, what age does the shelter accommodate? Do I need to bring ID or referral for housing? They're encouraged to share their experiences after each visit anonymously. Youth can say what they want, however they want. Shelters that provide LGBTQ services or other goods services are rewarded with positive comments. This can be used not only to help youth, but also social service providers to look at potential areas of improvement. Reviews can help make shelter systems more transparent by holding them accountable to the people they serve. By encouraging peer-generated reviews, we created an online community of support, whose confidentiality will remain safe with us. When George saw the most current version, he said, "Had I known what I know now about these programs that actually help you get off the streets faster, I think I would have taken back some of the decisions I made, compromising my own morals and beliefs." So what I learned from this is that information matters, and how we share it may even matter more. With no advertising, Caravan was launched in early April and received over 166 users, and Project Stay, where I interviewed the youth, are interested to fund it. Caravan has many dreams for development and is scalable across the country. But Caravan is more than just a resource guide. It can act as an inspiration for other organizations and designers to think about all other minority groups and populations who are far too often left out of these conversations. From designing websites to designing our very cities, everyone deserves to be included in beautiful design that can bring dignity and clarity to our lives. Thank you.